Sorry about that. I had the mic on mute there for a while. So, oops, sorry about that. Anyway, it's January 2nd, and this is the Morning Devo with Bowo. I'm going to be in Psalm 123 through 125. Check out the archives at my YouTube channel, Bo Willette, right there. That's what I was saying, actually, before I figured out, hey, I don't even think the mic's on. But, yeah, just go to the search bar in YouTube, type in Bo Willette, and you'll get to my archives. And so I just go through the Bible in my devotions. That's kind of how I do it. It's how I have always done it for a lot of years. And that's because when I first learned the Bible, I didn't learn it like I didn't go to church. I wasn't a church kid growing up. So you don't know, you don't go, oh, I'm going to start here in this book or anything like that. I actually just picked up the Bible and started reading. And that's what kind of blew my mind and really made me think a lot different about the kind of humanistic manifesto that was in my brain. And I was raised in a very secular way, very humanistic way of thinking, naturalistic way of thinking. There's no room for God in those ways of thinking. There's sometimes room for what we call spirituality. You might have heard that before, but not much room for like a deity, an actual accountability to a deity. So the Bible was so different in many ways, but it made a lot of sense when I went through it. So anyway, let's go into Psalm 123 through 125. Sorry about that, having the mic off for a bit. That was my bad. So Psalm 123, let's go into this. This is a song for pilgrims ascending to Jerusalem. So this section seems to be like a lot of songs for pilgrims ascending to Jerusalem. So this is what people, I guess, would say when they're going to Jerusalem, and they're ready to have their festivals in Jerusalem. I lift my eyes to you, O God, enthroned in heaven. We will keep looking to the Lord our God for his mercy, just as servants keep their eyes on their master, as a slave girl watches her mistress for the slightest signal. Have mercy on us, Lord, have mercy, for we have had our fill of contempt. We have had more than our fill of the scoffing of the proud and the contempt of the arrogant. Okay, so as people would go up to, and I guess it would be to worship the Lord on the festival days, that they would, have their eyes really riveted on the Lord. And so we saw this in Psalm 121, where that famous verse 1, right? I put my eyes to the mountains. I set my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord of creation. So it's kind of setting your eyes on the right place or on the right direction. And this is good. This is why we do devotions, right? Is to set our mind and our hearts on things above, right? On God. Even though I don't know what you did or what goes on in your life or all the things you might be bummed about, we have to be able to, in a sense, have our pilgrimage and where we set our minds back on the Lord. And that's good. We might call it like a retreat in our day. Where we might not call it a pilgrimage, but we might call it just a retreat. And so, that's what this is. It's like that retreat that you get where you go up to that mountain, you fix your eyes on the Lord, and it really, really is beneficial for you to get kind of focused. And notice the ideas that, Lord, help us with our enemies, right? Those that look at us and scoff. Israel is always seen as a nation, in the Bible anyway, as a nation that would be scoffed at. People would ridicule. And so if the Bible's true, we would find a world that seems to have a problem with Israel. That there's a problem with people's ideas about the Jews. And there's kind of an animosity, right? Now, I love that idea in this psalm too, that they are going to set their eyes on the Lord so that they're ready to go serve, that they're ready to go do something. And I kind of like that too. It's like, am I a person who's kind of intentional about my service to the Lord. Am I really going to serve the Lord? And how is that going to look? Am I thinking about that? Hey, God, I want to be ready. So when you say go do this, I go do that. That kind of idea. And I like that too. Am I kind of ready? Am I ready to serve the Lord? Am I listening to the Lord? Am I conscious, aware of the Lord? And where he might be directing me. So I find that cool in 123. So 124 is a song for pilgrims ascending to Jerusalem, a psalm of David. So we see it's kind of like, oh, we're going on retreat again. So I wonder if it's like being in the bus, going on a retreat, and you got the whole, I guess, church crew there, and you're all singing songs, and then you're just thinking about the Lord. What if the Lord had not been on our side? Let all Israel repeat. What if the Lord had not been on our side when people attacked us? They would have swallowed us alive in their burning anger. The waters would have engulfed us. A torrent would have overwhelmed us. Yes, the raging waters of their fury would have overwhelmed our very lives. Praise the Lord who did not let their teeth tear us apart. We escaped like a bird from a hunter's trap. The trap is broken and we are free. Our help is from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Okay, so it describes something about God, and that is he is the creator, he is the maker, and we see that over and over in the Psalms in verse 8. So God is the creator, and we see that, this idea of what if God's not on your side? And notice it says we would be tear apart, overwhelmed. Man, isn't it true that it's pretty amazing idea to think of in this psalm, and that is, what if God wasn't on your side? That's pretty radical, because if you say that God's not on your side, then that's like Mike Tyson fighting me. You know what I mean? It's like big versus little, great versus weak, I guess, strong versus weak. People don't understand what they're saying sometimes. I think when we say like, oh man, God's against me, and that kind of, well, if God's against you, then you have no chance. None, not even an inkling, because we are tiny. Our brains are tiny, tiny, tiny little things, right? Our bodies are little tiny things in comparison to all that's created. And we do not have any chance to win an intellectual argument, right? People who say like, oh, when I go before God, I'm gonna ask him, and I'm gonna tell him, and that doesn't make any sense. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? Like, how can you tell a deity? How can your brain, you are how tall? I mean, your brain's only so big. You only got so much oomph in the gas tank, You're only going to live so long. And you're going to tell God, the creator of all the things that are gigantic and tiny and things that can't be seen, and obviously the things that are seen that are overwhelming to us, you're going to somehow intellectually tie up the deity. Like, we, us humans, are so filled with arrogance. It's unbelievable. And we've put it in books. That's the crazy thing, is we put it in books and movies and all these other things as almost like a badge of courage or intellectualism, when really it doesn't show any intellectualism at all. It shows an arrogance in our species that we are absolutely lacked. If we were abandoned by the deity, that would make sense. That would be what we certainly deserve, is to be abandoned by God. I should look out into a world and see, if the Bible is true, I would look out in a world and I would see too that human beings are filled with arrogance, that we're filled with pride, filled with self-righteousness, that we think we are in the know. We think we are intelligent, that we have all the understanding that we need, or that it's very sufficient, our understanding. And especially compared to those people over there, we love to compare, right, and contrast and feel better about ourselves and fear that kind of idea, thinking that if the world were just like us, it would be a better place. And that's unfortunately not true. And so, it's sad. It's a sad psalm because a lot of us just haven't thought through this question enough, right? What if the Lord had not been on our side? That's right. Even me, secular atheist Bo, had a breath. I did have life. And even that, I guess, was a blessing. And, what if God wasn't on our side? What would, maybe we'd just not even be around. Maybe we'd just be annihilated. That's the idea in the Psalm anyway, is that if God's not on your side, then even as a nation, if God's not on your side, then the idea is you're pretty much destroyed, right? And so it really, I think the question's really good, a good one, and it's one that we need to think about, because it should move us into a place of humility, and that we go, wow, gosh, God is so much greater than me. What if he wasn't on my side? I mean, what if there, even biblically speaking, what if there was no sacrifice for your sins? What about that? What if there was no Jesus, right? No atonement for your sin? What if there was no resurrection, no ascension? Those doctrines mean so much. And they really give us an anchor for our soul and our mind. That's why it's important to study the life and the death, the resurrection, and the ascension of Jesus Christ. Because that really becomes an anchor for our mind into the ground, an anchor that goes deep into the soil so that the boat doesn't move, right? So that we stay very firmly planted, and emotionally, spiritually, those kind of things. So that's Psalm 124. 125 says, a song for pilgrims ascending to Jerusalem. So again, it's going on the retreat. It says, those who trust in the Lord are as secure as Mount Zion. That's cool. Secure. That's a good thing we need, right? It's an instinct that goes astray. What happens when our instinct of security runs amok and you feel insecure? What can happen in a relationship when you feel insecure? In your job when you feel insecure? What other emotion accompanies insecurity? Fear, right? And a lot of our motivations and why we do what we do, especially relationally, can be because of insecurities that we have in our life. I'm insecure, so I need to compensate for that insecurity by acting this way, by doing this, those kind of things. And that's something we got to work on as human beings. For those who trust in the Lord, they are as secure as Mount Zion. The idea is God being your ultimate security. Makes sense logically, right? God's the greater. I mean, totally. So today I just got to remember that God is the greater. He's the one that is the rock, and he's the one who would be more secure than putting my trust in anybody else. And so, but I need to know what God says, and that's why we open up the book. It says, they will not be defeated, but endure forever. Just as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people, both now and forever. So the mountains are seen as a type of security, right? Foundation. Nothing can move them. And mountains are big. It's tough to think of a mountain moving, but there is, in a sense, bombs that can be dropped on them that can really, move a lot of rock. That's for sure. But mountains are man, they are huge and they are solid. And to move a whole mountain, wow, that takes some power. It says, the wicked will not rule the land of the godly, for then the godly might be tempted to do wrong. So it talks about there in the Psalm in verse 3 about the wicked ruling, and then it moves those that even are godly to non-godly things. Now, this is what we see all the time in, obviously, our nations, right? Different places, right? When you have a government that maybe does not rule according to, say, the commandments of God, then they're going to rule according to other commandments, right? They choose a different kind of commandment, different person's commandment. And then other things might be now available to people that weren't available before. And so now maybe more people get their hands, in a sense, dirty, right? And that's something that, we can see all over the world, right? When we have freedom to do something, we tend to do it a lot. We need a power in us that is greater and moving us and motivating us to even though we have the choice, we don't do it. Man, that's the kind of power that's real power, right? Where no one's forcing you to not do it, no one's coercing you, right? You're not going to have a trap door or anything like that, but you look at it and you go, no, not going there. Man, that's powerful to have that kind of inner command, that inner move, of, in a sense, law, right? Something that governs you. But it's inside you, right? It's not someone forcing you. And that's the difference between so much of the world I've noticed in my life and Christianity. Is Christianity says, no, it's Christ in you. That's to move you and to be a law, in a sense, unto you. Where the world doesn't have that, so it needs a bigger and bigger government to try to restrain what they're calling evil and try to help people do what they call good. Whatever that good and evil is that they're talking about. Whoever gets in is going to call it something different, right? But, that's what we need, is that power that's really above everything, that's within us, right? The work of the Spirit of God. It says, O Lord, do good to those who are good, those hearts who are in tune with you, but banish those who turn to crooked ways. Take them away with those who do evil. May Israel live at peace. So the idea is that even in Israel, as they set pilgrim, they go to the place of the temple, that their eyes are on the Lord, and that they realize that in order for this really to work, we have to know what to do right, and we have to know what to do wrong. And we have to agree that God's ways are the right ways, that God's ways actually are good. And we want to put away the things that are evil, and even the things that are inside us that are moving us elsewhere. So maybe that security, maybe that fear, that's making us cling to that person or try to get something out of that person, or whatever we're doing, we're trying to get it, from people. But that's coming from that place of insecurity and fear, right? And so there's things outside of us that can come at us in 125, right? Those laws that are allowed, that now we have the freedom. There's things that come at us from outside, and there's things within us that can get us as well. And so, boy, again, another reminder. I love that verse 3. The wicked will not rule the land of the godly, for then the godly might be tempted to do wrong. Yeah, I need a power, much greater to be able to work within me. I live in a world of a lot of freedoms, right? And we're thankful for that in a lot of ways, because we've seen the abuses of the opposite, where people are forced or coerced. That doesn't seem fun at all. But in that freedom, we need a power to be able to restrain or harness if you take out Christianity from a society, then you don't have the power within the humans to say no to things that they are lawfully free to do in the society. And so then what you have, since you don't have a power within, then you create a bigger power from without. And so that's what's happening, and that's what's happened so much of the time in the world, just over and over and over and over. Different civilizations, different cities, different, countries, that kind of thing. So, wow, very cool. Bob says, I did not grow up knowing God, but he sure knew me. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Love that. So 123, was just being ready to serve the Lord, really. That's kind of the idea there. Am I ready to serve the Lord? 124 is that wonderful question of what if God has not been on our side? Woo, right? Man, thinking of all the blessings of God. And then 125 is another good one about being stable, secure in God, and hopefully that helps us. Well, it should help us when we're stable and secure in God to be able to make better decisions, because our decisions are based off of God and not on so much of other people. That kind of idea. So I think that's cool. Those three are pretty cool. And you can see that they're all small. A lot of them are small right now. So we'll get to some big ones in a little bit. But hey, we'll just take these little short ones. So, hey, Bob, you have a great day. Thanks so much for just your friendship. It's a blessing. You take care. Bye-bye.